I genuinely can't believe it. I've made it from Ohio all the way up to Alaska, through the Dalton Highway, into the Arctic Circle, in an Audi R8. Who knew a plan this stupid would actually work? Wow. But it turns out, that was the easy part. Now getting home, that's where things got messy. Let's make this an uneventful trip back. See you later, Arctic Circle, it was real. I didn't get much dust on the way up to the Arctic Circle, but for some reason, it's much worse coming back. Luckily, it's just really fine dust. We're gonna clean the air filters when we get back to the hotel, and we'll get that all cleaned out. I had to make a quick stop for my $8 a gallon gas just to ensure I had enough to get back, but while I'm down here, take a look at these wheels. I've never seen this much accumulation of dirt on a wheel like in my entire life, and I off-road all the time. You see this rock right here? Yes, this giant one laying in the middle of the road. I've avoided a million of these on this drive so far, and somehow I ended up clipping this one in the perfect spot to stop me in my tracks. It hit my front wheel, rattled around a couple times, and smacked something right at the back of my engine. Well, f me, I guess. I hit a rock large enough to, I'm assuming, break a coolant line. Absolutely amazing. Oh. I am coasting in neutral back down the hill to the camp, where hopefully I can get a tow truck. Man, I am so upset. We made it so far. At least the engine's not overheating coasting down the hill. And I was at the very top of the hill, so we get to roll all the way down. So I was driving down the road right after I got my almost $8 gas from the gas station, minding my own business. Mind you, this is 4,500 miles into my journey. I just drove up to the Arctic Circle on this road, and I'm almost back. And there is a road rock, probably about this big, sitting in the middle of the road. And I was going over a bump when I hit this rock, and I think that made my front lower down and clipped the rock, which then bounced back and smacked my thermostat housing back here. Immediately, the sound wasn't bad, but it just didn't sound right. So I pulled over almost immediately, turned around, and I saw the dreaded trail. So I was like, cool. Either I just shattered my engine block or my oil pan or some type of coolant line. I was hoping it was just a coolant line because then I could just splice it together and move on, but no, it was that thermostat housing. All right, now's the time for everybody to let it rip, roast me in the comments, tell me I'm stupid, whatever, for bringing this car up here, but this has been the trip of a lifetime, so I'm not mad. And I have the means to fix it. I'm gonna figure out a way. I'm gonna get this car back up on the road and finish the rest of my trip. So the funny thing is, I broke down at the exact right time, at the exact right location. I drove 200 miles up and 200 miles back, and this is the only installment in that entire section. So if I broke down up there, I would have been 100 miles away from literally anything, and back there would have been somewhere in the middle of that too. But the kicker is, I actually broke down at the right time as well. because they close at 8 o'clock and I broke down around 7:40 or so. And then back up there on top of this hill is where I actually stopped and kind of assessed it and then coasted back down. And by the time I got to their station over here, it was just before they closed. And if that didn't happen, I would have been out here with nothing, because they're the ones who gave me the tow number and their Wi-Fi, because obviously there's no service out here. So perfect time at the perfect place if I was going to break down. Just trying to tell myself that's a good thing, right? I don't even want to admit how much a tow truck costs to get out here. I just peeled the part number off, and we're going to go back to the Wi-Fi over at the gas station and see what we can find. It's not like you can walk into AutoZone and buy a thermostat housing for something like this. I think I have to get it off of like FCP Euro or something like that, so I might have to fly home, grab it, and then fly back. Well, you know, that'll be memorable at least. That's kind of how I take these things. Don't get mad, just I'll remember this forever now. I don't want to early call this or anything, but I think I just found an Audi dealer in San Francisco that actually has one in stock. It's way too late right now, but I'm going to give him a call in the morning, and hopefully I can get that up here, because I want to fix it myself and I want to fix it up here so I can continue my trip. I am really glad I didn't end up popping a tire on top of that coming into this area that I parked, because I was just walking back and forth, pacing a hole in the ground, waiting for the tow truck, and I found a screw, a nail, look, another screw, there's another nail, another screw. It's somebody literally just dropped a box of them right here. So I'm going to throw these off to the side of the road, because if my tow truck driver gets a flat, then that would be something, right? A tow truck, I'm gonna get a tow truck with a car on the back of it. Although there's FBI no trespassing signs everywhere, they do seem to be pretty relaxed about security. First time I've laid down like 24 hours. Hopefully I don't fall asleep when he shows up. So it is now 3:42. He's a little bit late, but I'm not gonna blame him because of where I am. But what is crazy is I have not seen a truck go by since a couple minutes after I pulled in. So that'd be what, 8 hours since the car's gone by. I'm really, can't say it enough. I'm glad this happened here. I see some very bright headlights. I really hope that's my guy. Although it sounds pretty large. That sounds like an 18-wheeler. Yeah, I'm not gonna get my hopes up. It definitely sounds too big to be a tow truck. And I would be correct. I sat here long enough. My ears are pretty in tune with the environment. I could tell that wasn't a tow truck before I could even see it. There's two guys in a bench seat. I'm gonna have to sit sandwiched in the middle for 3 hours. Oh, this joke doesn't end. Thankfully, my tow truck drivers were super nice, although there was just a little bit of a language barrier there. And I don't know what was going on, if this guy had somewhere to be, but we were hauling down this road. I guarantee we were going 15 over the speed limit the whole time. My head was hitting off the ceiling, the car looked like it was getting air on the back, and this was probably the sketchiest part of the whole trip somehow. But he got me back, and that's all that matters. 11:49. So that was a fun day. A little update on the situation. I was able to find a hotel using that place's Wi-Fi and got back at 8 a.m. this morning. Slept for a couple hours and I made 1,000 phone calls trying to find this part. I called a bunch of Audi dealerships, nothing there. And then I found an auto recycling place, and it looks like the water pump that I'm looking for is pretty standard across Audi, but they label it different for every single model. So you go online and it says the Audi R8 one is specific to the R8, but I looked at every square inch of this part and it looks to be the same from an S5, RS5, and A8 from a similar time frame. So I actually ordered one from an S5 and somehow was able to get overnight shipping to Fairbanks. Now we'll see if that pans out. I know shipping's pretty rough right now, but I also ordered one from a dealership supplier chain that said they could do overnight, but that still hasn't updated, and it looks like it's going to be 2-day shipping from that one. Just whichever one gets here first, I'll put on or attempt to, and then I'll return the other one. So I'm going to go walk to the grocery store that's a mile away, get some food, and then we're going to start stripping it apart so I can just have everything ready when that part comes in. So I found an AutoZone right next to my hotel, or rather I found a hotel that was conveniently next to an AutoZone so I could work in the parking lot. But this was the lowest profile jack they had. Definitely not going to clear, so... Okay, so it's getting real sketchy here. We're on like a basically dirt parking lot. Well, I guess it's asphalt with just a bunch of dirt on it, but that piece was not able to come off, so I had to go find some wood and bought a saw, because the only two stores around are Ace and AutoZone. And Ace did not have anything besides a 1x3. So I found a saw, cut that up, and then we drove on top of it to get in the air, and now we can get access to that. Man, I wish I could have washed this off before I started working on it. It is dirty under there, but we just got this under body panel off about 600 screws later, plastic Audi, and then we can see all the carnage. There she is. Looks like the rock hit right there. Just barely got a nick of it. And this just horrible design plastic. It's aluminum here, aluminum there, and then plastic in the center. I got this pipe off. We got 2 more pipes over there. And what I'm hoping is that this center plastic section is the same on that S5 one, and I can just retain these two to keep it factory Audi. I had to take that off to also reach this bleed plug right here. So this goes into the oil pump drive, I believe. So I'm hoping I don't have to take this off, but it's looking like I do. And I have this pan here just in case it starts spilling oil out. If so, not a big deal, because I want to do the oil change as well, since we've got 4,500 miles on it since the trip began. So after a ton of trouble, like usual with any Audi, I was able to get all these bolts off. This is a fixed pipe, so I kind of just had to pull a little bit to get it off. And just like I was thinking, since this goes into the oil system, I pulled it back and we're dripping oil everywhere. So I'm glad I brought a filter. I'm just gonna have to go get some oil inside, and then once this pulls off, which I think it just comes right out, then I'll be able to get access to these clamps up here. This is, I thought it was gonna be an easy job. This is not. I've been out here for a couple hours already. I'm still at this state, and we still have to do like oil and all that kind of crap too. All right, check in back in a minute. Okay, I finally weaseled that out, and there is like a rod in there, if you can see that, which sits into the actual shaft of the water pump. I'll show you that in a minute. But getting that out was a real pain. It was so tight, and I can't take this off on the other side because there's a gasket and I won't have access to that. So now we have a lot of room to get these off up in here. And then I was planning on that not happening, and then I could start it and move it back to my hotel's parking lot, but I'm gonna have to let them know that this is sitting here overnight. I'm sure they won't care, but I feel bad about it. Here's the situation. We got it out. Right there you can see the oil pump drive shaft, which goes into the water pump, and then that's what spins. It literally just looks like a long Allen key, and that goes in this bottom one. That top hole right there is what supplies the engine with water. And this inside here is the propeller for the water pump. It's really small. And then it's attached to this piece, which is the thermostat housing. And then that branches off into these couple hoses. So it's really crammed in there. I think Audi probably couldn't have made that more difficult if they tried, but we succeeded. So I'm gonna get this all cleaned up, put the car back down so it doesn't look so janky sitting here in the parking lot, and we're just gonna pray that UPS comes through and gets me that part tomorrow. I've got all my openings plugged with paper towels just in case some critters try to get up in there. I don't want to have to deal with that. And we will lay this back down. We're gonna head up to the hotel room so we can take a closer look at the water pump and the damage. Here is the, oh, I had it put together to show you how it kind of worked, but I guess not anymore. This is the water pump assembly. So this is the drive shaft over here using this rod, and that will spin the impeller, which we'll take a look at here in a second. And this is the thermostat unit over here. If I dump that out, you can see the thermostat back down in there. So a rock hit this tiny little section right there. You can see just the smallest little nick right there, and that must have jarred this enough to shatter this, because this for some reason is a cheap plastic that Audi loves to use. And the section I'm after, since there's no damage on this or this, is this center section. And I believe this is standard across a lot of Audis, this water pump section, and then the thermostat housing is specific to the R8, but I don't really think there's much of a difference. But what I'm looking to do is keep this thermostat and change this plastic piece with the new one that I ordered, because the new one comes as the whole assembly. So we'll pull this apart, kind of take a look at the inner workings, make sure everything's good to be recycled, and then we will go from there. And in the meantime, while I'm waiting, I really want to take a look inside these two things and see how everything works. So I'm gonna walk over to Ace and see if they have a 7mm 6-sided star socket, and we can crack those open. The water pump is it's in fine shape. I mean, look how small that is for that entire V8 engine. That's insane, but it must be spinning fast because it's efficient. The car stays really cool. It looks like this fits on here, and it has this little scooper right here, which is kind of funny, I guess, to help the flow not just jam into this pocket here. I don't know, maybe it's for air pockets or something like that, but yeah, it draws in water right there, spins it around here, and then shoots it up and out of this section, which then goes over into here, and then the thermostat blocks off this right here with the flat piece of the thermostat, and then it also allows it to escape through here and there. And the bleed screw is right here, because when the thermostat is closed and the engine's cool, this is where the coolant comes down in through when you're filling and you need to bleed the air out. I think that might be the only bleed spot, or let's hope so, because I really don't want to do anything else besides that. But yeah, you can see this is kind of an odd assembly for the thermostat. The thermostat's at an angle to kind of sit into this thing. Yeah, I mean, God, look at the size of that water pump. It's not like my hands are huge or anything, it's just tiny. Okay, 5-10 more minutes and the other one should be here. I'm tracking the guy looking out the window like a creep, and we will get the car back on the road. And I think I wanted to kind of own that dirt on there like a badge of honor, but it was not fun getting under there to work on it with it super dirty like that, so I might be cleaning it off tonight before we hit the road again. I definitely have had my beef with UPS in the past, but props to them. I ordered this less than 20 hours ago from Salt Lake City, and it's already here in Fairbanks. This is the one that I am less confident in working, but the one I ordered that is direct replacement for the car, the fastest shipping they allowed was 2-day, and it just arrived in Anchorage a couple hours ago. So I actually think that one might be delivered today too. In that case, we're just gonna kind of wait to see if that happens, and if not, I will try to make this one work. And just as I suspected, they are ever so slightly different. It looks like Audi used pretty much the same casting and just changed one point on it. So if we look at the water pump itself, it's the exact same pump. So if you need an R8 pump, you can get it off of pretty much any of these Audis of this era. But then if we look at the thermostat area, this is where the differences happen. So they're clocked the same as far as this piece right here and this smaller one. So if I twist this into the same area where those are about the same spot, you can see that this one is clocked to the left, and then this also has an electronic thermostat, and then one of the bolts is in the wrong spot. So all 4 of these edge bolts that you can see are in the same spot, but this 5th one is slightly to the side on this. So in a pinch, I could probably make this work by just using 4 of these bolts and skipping that 5th one that doesn't really look like it does a whole lot, and using extra sealant. I then could probably swap the thermostats around. If you look down in here, there are 3 Allens that hold the thermostat in there, and I think that would work just fine. I just have to stretch the hose a little bit more. But like I said, since I do have access to the actual one that will be coming today, I think this one will just go ahead and be returned. They put these little markings on there just to make sure I can't break it open and then return it, which is exactly what I want to do right now, just to see if I can make this work while I'm waiting for the other one. But I think I'm going to practice some self-restraint and hold off. I did notice that my water pump, if I put this in here, turns like it's smooth, but it requires a significant amount more effort than this one does. Not sure if mine's just worn or if this one's worn or what the issue is, but they're slightly different. The other one that I have coming in though is brand new. I paid an arm and a leg for it. So this actually ended up being in between a $2,000 and $3,000 mistake between the toe and the pump, which I'll deal with that later. I was actually way under budget for everything else that I was thinking I was going to need for the trip, so it isn't as big of a hit as I thought it would be, just because I expected to already spend about $2,000 more on like gas and hotels and stuff. So I'm only about $1,000 more into this trip than I thought it was going to be, but it's been so much fun so far that I can't even complain. So we'll cross our fingers that FedEx will come through just like UPS did, and then we will get an oil change, slap this guy on. Well, for you guys, it'll be me just slapping it on, but it'll take a few hours. And then we will try to get back to home. All right, so we have my 3rd water pump up here. And this one came right from Audi Volkswagen, so I know it will be good. Props to Autohaus AZ for getting this to me in less than 20 hours. And also FedEx and UPS for actually doing their job super well. Sometimes it takes longer to get a delivery in Ohio than it does here. So everything looks like it matches up pretty well. Yep, same clock right there. And then the pump looks just the same as well. So all I have to do is transfer this hose over, get my dirty clothes on, and we're gonna go throw this guy in. Well, you know, things typically come apart better than they go back together. There's just no room to get to any of these clamps. Like, how am I supposed to get up in there to that one? And this one as well is not the easiest thing to get to. That one should be manageable. They just don't give you any opportunities in here. And then along with that, you have to line this one up while lining up the drive shaft right here too. So this might take me a couple hours, but I know we can do it. I now have all those hoses on, and now's the time I have to line up the key from this to the like socket look or Allen looking thing that goes into the pump here. And it is impossible to do. Anytime I want to try to twist it to line it up, I have to take this whole thing back out, twist it a fraction of an inch, and then try again, and just keep spinning until it lines up, and we haven't got there yet. I'm like an animal at the zoo out here. Every single person that goes to one of these stores and passes me takes a picture. Nobody really wants to talk to me, but they'll take pictures all day. I think I finally got this lined up. I just need another bolt or two to go in, then we'll be putting that tube on that one, cracking this bleed screw, and then filling that up with coolant, and we'll see if we can get it bled. After that, oil change. Oh my God. I think I've finally done it. My hands are all shaky because I had to put like 100% effort into pretty much everything you do here, and holding my hands up in the air the whole time. No blood left in them, but I think I finally got this lined up. I'm hoping it wouldn't have pulled in if I didn't, and that water pump will spin. So I'm gonna crack this guy open here and we'll see how all that work turned out. So the radiator's up front and it runs through this pipe and then through this center section right here. So I filled the tank up and it comes right down through this. So if I open this, in theory, I should get some coolant and air out, and then I can start filling it more and start the car. Okay, so we got some water out. We'll throw some coolant in there and then we'll see how that works out. So since it sucked that down super quick, I know that the water pump's moving. And doesn't look like we have any leaks. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this up to temperature. We'll bleed it off and I should be good after that. Nice. Successful water pump replacement in the Arctic Circle on an Audi R8. It's gotta be a first, right? I'm just sitting here with my hand on the hose after the thermostat. This is all warm over here, still cold in here, so as soon as that opens up it should suck more coolant down, and then I can fill the rest up, and we'll just see kind of what that gets me from there. After that I'm going to do the oil before I start driving it, but then I'll probably go on a little bit of a drive, get all that coolant moved around, cool it down, and then we'll check the level. But we're still getting coolant from here, so I think we should be good to go. All right, I think we just popped open. Okay, so I think that was a success. It went up to temperature and held exactly where it's always been. So I'm gonna let it cool down a little bit, and I'm gonna change the oil while it's hot, since the car was just idling for a while. Get that done, and then I'll check out the level again, and after that I think I should be good to get her cleaned up and get on the road. This is a white t-shirt. Every bit of ground out here is just completely covered in like this super dusty kind of dirt stuff. I tried to sweep it up before I laid down and put cardboard down too, and that's what I get. All right, off we go. Everything seems all right, so I'm gonna go for a test drive over to the car wash and get her all cleaned up. We'll check out the coolant and the oil after that, but I think we are good to head back home. I'll tell you what, it feels good to be moving again. Even though I'm not fully sure everything's good, the car is functioning, no coolant or oil dripping or anything, so I think all is well. Been ripping it for about 45 minutes now, and the temp is literally dead center, exactly where it's always been. So I will call that a win. I think we just replaced a thermostat and water pump in an AutoZone parking lot in the Arctic. Don't worry, I'm not using the scrub brush, and it's gonna get a better wash back home. Definitely not perfect, but it looks like an R8 again. Well, that was a fun night. Not like sarcastically or anything either. I got the car done, did my oil, got the water pump finished, And then I posted on my one of the Audi R8 forums I have on Facebook, and somehow it must have got shared around this local area or something, because the post like took off, and like within an hour had like 8,000 people interacting with it and stuff like that. So I got a lot of people from the area reaching out to me, just wanting to talk or chat or whatever. So I went out and gave a guy a ride that's never seen one before. We hit the car wash together, came back, and then this morning I went to a local coffee shop and chatted with another guy who's a Land Rover enthusiast, just like I am too, and just had a good time with all these people, and everybody seems super friendly. So we had a little bit of a hiccup the other day, but everything seems to be falling into place now. We just passed North Pole, heading back to Toke, and then over to Whitehorse, and then just gonna follow the same exact path on the way home. And this time around, the sun is shining through every single one of those towns for the whole drive. So I'm really excited to kind of actually get to see stuff that's not shrouded in clouds. So we'll just do a lot of time lapse, and I'm not gonna bother you too much with my yapping on the way back, and we'll just see if anything exciting happens. I'm about an hour and 20 minutes outside of Fairbanks now, and there's a bunch of road construction throughout this whole road, so I'm just sitting in line waiting to pass. But I took a look at the temperature, and everything looks pretty rock solid. I think the car is back to being happy again, and I don't know what it is, but the transmission seems to be shifting a little bit smoother. There's still a hiccup or two, but it's substantially better than it was the other day. I'm still going to do some diving into that. I don't know what's going on, but I'm not complaining that it's self-healing. The car's happy. I have a very, very long drive ahead of me, so I think this is where we're going to wrap up for the day. But if you've made it this far, I just want to thank you for following along. Be sure to like and subscribe if you want to see the next episode that's going to be coming out here shortly. I think this is going to just detail the drive home. We're going to run over anything that happened to the car, the long-term effects, and give it a very deep cleaning, most importantly. So take care, and thank you.